Welcome to the Intern Whisperer. Our show is all about the future of work and innovation. And so today's guest is somebody I've known for a while. And I don't remember when we met, but the year, I'm pretty sure it was 2021. It was still COVID, 2022, one of those years. His name is Glenn Cook. And he is somebody that I think everybody should know. But I forgot my intro. So my name is Isabella Johnston, and this is the Intern Whisperer Podcast, and it's brought to you by Employers for Change, which helps hiring teams reduce employer bias and increase head and heart smart competency skill development for interns and their employees. My guest, as I mentioned earlier, is Glenn Cook, who is the CSO of Land Rotor. He's going to explain what that is. And I met him when we were in the Avalon Innovation Program in 2020. Yes, I have it in my notes. He's the former vice president of a new business with a demonstrated, it says former vice president. You're going to explain that too. With new business development with a demonstrated history of working in the transportation, limo, and motor coach industry. Is this all accurate, Glenn?
Well, some slight changes since the last time we talked, too.
Oh, well, so let's clear that up right now. So you're the CEO of Safe Rider. What are you doing now, Glenn?
Okay, so instead of the CSO for Land Rotor, I'm actually a strategic partner.
Okay.
So also I won the Innovator of the Year award with the East Orlando Chamber of Commerce just recently. So in conjunction with that, I'm chief innovation for the entire area right now. So as people come in, they bring their startups to me, they bring their innovative ideas, and we help them to become a reality and by getting them some venture capital and getting them on their way.
I love this. Okay, so does it have to be limited to cars?
No, not at all. We're actually working a lot in the healthcare space as well. We're working some with fintech. I got about 17 different verticals that we work on in the Lake Nona Living Lab.
You are a busy, busy man. I don't know how you have time to do anything. People say that about me, but I've met my match. That's you. That's for sure. Okay. Well, what is Safe Rider?
Safe Rider right now was born out of what you and I met. It was part of EV Transports. It became a DBA. And Safe Rider basically brings all forms of multimodal systems into a safe, connected atmosphere. So it could be electric, it could be autonomous, it could be operated on land, air, water, or space, but it's a very safe form of mobility.
Okay. So in the month of November, I'm going to do this shameless plug and put you on the spot. It's hard to do that, though. You don't flinch. So we do our Space Jam, and I would like to have you be one of the companies that comes and gives us problem statements that you would like us to solve with a game-based solution.
That would be wonderful. Working in aerospace is a new passion of mine. Working with Space Florida, working with people that are out at Kennedy Space Center. It's really cool stuff.
It is cool stuff. So I would welcome, just so you know, also any connections that you have. We have some, Kunal and I, with Space Florida, with NASA, but it's always good to have more. And we want to have business partnerships with them and be able to do flying cars and take people to space and all the things that you're doing. And that's part of why we're having this conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do that off the air. Now, I usually have people introduce themselves with 5 words that describe them. And so I've got your 5 words.
Okay.
So you're going to tell us why that word and why does that have significance for you, but why would our listeners find that interesting, right? So the first word is disruptive. Yes, that is you.
Well,
in the best possible way.
The main thing is that we try to do things outside the box. I've been told that I tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. So when somebody brings us a problem or a pain point with a company, we try to look at things in a new way that wouldn't be legacy minded or conformative. So we kind of disrupt the normal way of thinking when you come to a pain point or a problem with a legacy system.
I like that. Legacy system. Now, explain it again, simple terms. Legacy system. What does that mean?
A legacy system would basically be something the way it's always been done, where a protocol might be. But you have to look at problems in a new light, not with the same type of problem or system that created the problem.
So you're using innovative methods to really think very, very carefully, like honestly, like I would say a 5-year-old can think, what do I have around me? Or MacGyver, pick your character.
First world type mentality, where if you look at a politician or a policymaker, you have to be able to explain it to them in a way that a 5th grader would understand it.
Yes. Yes.
And once you can get to that point, then you go back to first principles. What created that problem? And then solve for that one thing first.
I love it. Yeah. And I love the fact that you're referencing fifth graders. I actually put it down even less. I sit there and go, it has to be something a 5-year-old can understand, because we're not saying that people are stupid, right? That's not what we're saying.
No, not at all.
We're saying we have to make sure that we can speak to different types of communication levels, different learning abilities, different language barriers. And so when we use simple words, it's not an insult. It's just making sure that our definitions of what those words mean, they're on the same page in the most basic language, right?
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. When you just talked about a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
90% of a human being's brain is developed by age 5.
Yes.
And that's part of STEM education.
I know you're learning a lot, so tell us why.
So when you operate in that system of the science, technology, engineering, and mathematical space, children by the age of 5 can understand those concepts. So early childcare development, 8 weeks through 5 years old, is where they're the most developmental sound.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can reach children at that age, their learning curve increases tremendously.
I agree with you. And part of where my research is I sit here and I go, okay, I've got grown adults. It's really hard to get a grown adult to be able to think like a 5-year-old, because they've been conditioned. They carry baggage, right? They've got bad habits. They've got good habits. They've got all of this stuff that's impacted their life way more than a 5-year-old. But if I can bring that 5-year-old out, everything changes for a grown adult.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, one of the things that if you even learn to train an animal, a horse, a dog, it's called imprinting. Once
Yes.
you've been imprinted for so long in a certain way, it becomes a natural habit.
Yes.
And over a period of time, whether it's 30, 60, or 90 days, it takes that long to unwind that as well.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
To create that new habit.
Yeah. So I introduce myself to people, and I use that imprinting theory also. I say, so tell me your name, tell me what you want me to call you, because whatever you say right now, I imprint like a baby duck onto you, and I'm going to say, okay, that's what I'm going to call you. If you have a nickname and you don't want me to use that in front of other people, you have to tell me these things now. And so then people do that, and it makes it a lot easier, because the first words that we say, there's not always a rewind, like you had said earlier.
First impressions.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So think carefully. We should all be a little more introspective and introverted in the way we communicate, so we're thinking before our mouth opens.
Interact your brain before you engage your mouth.
That is true, Glenn. That is very, very true. Very true. Okay, so innovator. Well, I kind of think you covered it, because, you put disruptive together with innovation, but, I loved all of these specific cases that you cited. What else do you want to add to the world and the word of innovation?
Well, with regards to innovation, it's basically problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever a new company comes into our living lab of Lake Nona or the area that's right outside the airport, I ask them, what problem areas are you trying to solve for? Because we have to think about it in a new way.
Mm-hmm.
Those companies normally will be searching for capital. They'll be searching for new employees. They'll be looking at different ways to get to a certain type of industry in a different way that makes them new, innovative. Mm-hmm. So that allows that legacy company, example, an IBM, to layer in their new type of software to their Watson X, to layer into Amazon that new type of robotic, to layer into that Boeing, that new type of aerospace technology. And by doing that, they become innovative.
So what do you read where you get all of these facts and statistics? Do you read, or how do you consume all of this knowledge? Videos, podcasts, reading?
All the above, honestly. Yeah. And quite honestly, because I do kind of live on different time zones all the way around the world, working in the Emirates, working in Israel, working in France, working in Brazil, I learn a lot from multicultural. Mm-hmm. And being multicultural and being able to speak to these people in other countries, you learn a lot just by asking simple questions. Mm-hmm. And people really like talking about themselves. So then you just got to sit back and listen. They'll tell you.
That is the gift of being a great communicator, right? Is listening, and then just letting people share.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I like you so much for all of these things you're sharing here. You're just a very fountain of knowledge, but also somebody that keeps it fresh, like fountain of youth. Fresh knowledge too. It's old school, but it's also relevant. Okay, so your third word was mentor.
We get a lot of new, young people that like to learn new things. So as they teach me, I teach them.
That's peer and reverse mentoring, by
And
the way.
honestly, I enjoy that. I really dig it. And I can honestly say that my granddaughter can teach me more about an iPhone than I could ever consume whenever I was going through, hey, there's the flip phone, or, there is the Trio from Sprint that I got to push a lot of buttons. The whole iPhone concept, when she was younger, she was 3, 4. She started teaching me when I was in my 50s.
Exactly. That is exactly my point. You are proving my point all the time. All the time. I teach in Sunday school 3 and 4-year-olds. That's how I know how to work with adults, because you have to be able to let them play. They don't come in with any type of presumptions or prejudices about people. And if you come in and you work with people that are 2, 3, 4, like that kind of curiosity and amazement of life, it'll change your world.
I really believe Apple sat down with young children and looked at their dexterity skills to create the iPhone. I really believe that.
I think you're right too. I honestly think you're right. So your fifth word was, nope, your fourth word was startup founder. How many things have you launched, Glenn?
I think I'm on my 6th corporation. I've done 3 what I would call successful exits, and then 3 were kind of bombs. And you learn by failure.
No. How many is that then? That's like 9.
No, 3 positive, 3 negative. So
Okay.
that's 6.
Yeah.
And this is my 7th right now, is Safe Rider. So we're still in that process right now, and I'm working with VCs right now myself.
How do you like that?
Very humbling, because honestly, I'm working with a guy today. He's going to come see me tomorrow. We met on a Google Meet, and it was through a corporation that I met in Utah with called Rev Road. And he came to me.
Is it Tony?
No, this gentleman, his name is Bo.
Oh, Bo. Yeah.
And so Bo and I started our first conversation today with my daughter in the room, because as we scale this quickly, I'm going to need help. I can't do it on my own.
Yeah, I know Bo. He's great. Yeah. And there was Tony too.
So he came out of Rev Road, and Rev Road's out of Utah.
Yeah. I like him. Very nice guy. Okay. Your last word that you used to describe yourself. Let me get over here. Mobility. Now, why did you pick mobility?
Well, some of my own research over the last 4 years since we really first met, coming out of the I-Corps program in Avalon Park, as what we found is, as you can focus on the quality of life for the human behavior, as you increase their mobility, you increase their quality of life. Now, this could all be for people with disabilities. It could be people just in general. And if you can think about multimodal systems, it doesn't have to be the car. It could be the autonomous vehicle. It could be the electric vehicle. How do you not consume combustion engine fumes? How do you create infrastructure?
Right?
Excuse me?
It could be scooters. It could be a flying backpack.
Absolutely.
Jetsons reference.
So we are also working on new types of propulsion systems. Propulsion systems, you can create one type of propulsion system and it could work land, air, water, and space. So you can actually take one type of propulsion, make it electric, 0 emissions, and be able to utilize it in 0 gravity and 0 oxygen.
Whoa.
It can be done. We can use fluid dynamics. There's all types of things that we're experimenting with right now.
So when you're learning all of this is a lot to absorb. I think your brain is like a giant sponge. It's like
that technology, I learned about it from Colombia in South America. So I have to go outside of what we're used to seeing here in the continental United States of North America. So I actually found this company that had a patent in Colombia. They came to me and said, hey, we want to be able to execute this and utilize this propulsion system. And what we found is, wow, it doesn't necessarily have to be with mobility. We could use this system for HVAC, for hospitals, to be able to thrust air where you need to create a cleaner oxygen area, cleaner
Hmm.
air, like
So,
hospitals.
so yeah, that and also in like war settings where you have to really you
Oh,
have
yeah.
no control over those things.
Well, working with the Florida Israeli partnership, I've really had a chance to sadly see war firsthand.
Oh,
And I have friends that have been recalled back into active reserve duty. So
that's hard.
yeah, it's hard. And these people that are adults, they have children, they have families. They're not 19, 20 years old. These are 40, 50-year-old
Yeah,
people.
but they choose this. They're
That's
choosing
part of
that.
their culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is.
They are choosing it. So, let's talk about your personal story. Where did you go to school? How did you end up here to where you are now?
Younger years, I grew up in Florida, younger. My dad
Where in
got
Florida?
transferred of Gainesville.
Oh, okay.
So University of Florida, grew up there. Then my father was, my mom remarried. I was originally an Air Force brat. My dad didn't come back from Vietnam. My mom remarried when I was 7. And so I traveled around to different Air Force type bases. And then she remarried and we moved to the Carolinas. And then after that, he got transferred to Kentucky, where I went to college, my undergrad and my master's degree. And with my very first master's degree thesis, I created a business plan, which got me into event planning, sports. So I worked with the theme parks here in Florida quite a bit: Disney, SeaWorld, Wet and Wild, Universal. And then I also started working with the NBA, Orlando Magic, which branched off into the Miami Heat, Portland Trail Blazers, Chicago Bulls. And I did those contracts all the way up through 2008.
What do you mean you did those contracts? What
We,
does that
we
mean?
would produce events that would
Oh,
produce any type of mass ticket sale over 1,000. And it's usually either when the NBA team wasn't doing so hot, they couldn't fill the seats, or when the theme parks would have a down season, they want to get people back in the park. So we would produce an event. It was usually built around some type of sporting event where the families could come in an off season, bring the whole family and enjoy themselves.
that's nice.
And then at 2008, I got bought out by this little company called ESPN, which had a division called Varsity Brands.
Oh my God.
And so I did my very first big exit in
Wow.
2008. And then I sat on the couch for a couple of years and didn't do a whole lot.
Do you have lifetime tickets? Is that what they gave you?
Well, back then it was still called Amway Arena, Rich DeVos, that type of thing.
Yeah. But
Shaq was just departing. Anthony Hardaway was just leaving, going to
well,
their
you said you
locations.
got bought out by ESPN, and I went,
Well, it was a brand. It was called Varsity Brands, which was
okay.
a sporting brand of apparel and cheerleading and dance events, actually.
Oh, that's
That
a
was
big
done at
sport.
Disney. Yeah. So if
Yeah.
you ever saw the National Cheerleading Championships or World Championships, that was a brand that I owned.
Yeah, I have gone there. I have seen them because
Yeah.
I have a friend that has a daughter that's in that competition in
Yeah.
cheerleading. And yeah, it's a real sport. People get scholarships for that.
Oh, yeah. I was one of them years ago.
Yeah. So it's a big deal to have that.
A lot of acrobatics.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like gymnastics, but not. They
Yeah.
also don't call it that either. So
Exactly.
yeah. So where did you say you went to school though?
University of Kentucky
Okay.
for my undergrad and my master's,
Why did you choose that school?
because I graduated from a high school and I got scholarships.
Oh,
I
well,
got a
I was
VA scholarship, I
thinking,
got an academic scholarship, and I got a scholarship for athletics.
were you a cheerleader?
I was a cheerleader,
There you go. Okay. I
but I
figured
was
you
an
had to
acrobat
be.
and I was a wrestler, and I didn't want to roll around on the mat with boys anymore. So I took up cheerleading because I was an acrobat.
Is that how you met your wife?
No, actually, she was producing events at Disney. That's how I met her.
Yeah, I thought maybe she was a cheerleader too.
No, no.
Yeah, she's your cheerleader now,
Yeah.
though.
She's great.
Yeah.
She's just a professional grandmother. She's
Ah,
Gigi.
that's cute. All right. So let's talk about some of the things. How did you get to where you are now? Why did you choose this particular industry of space, of autonomous driving vehicles, and being able to make mobility actually happen for the masses? Why?
Um, like I said, I did an exit in 2008. I didn't do anything for a little while, and I looked down to a P&L statement and I saw a line item that said transportation. I said, "Oh, I could do that." And I had a gentleman who was my friend came to me and said, "Look, I want to do a merger acquisition with a bigger company. I know you've done an exit before. Can you help me?" And I said, "Yeah." And so we worked for 1 full year, and we got him bought out by a corporation that was called Super Shuttle, Blue Vans. and which is owned by a bigger conglomerate called Veolia. And once that happened, they brought me in as the sales director to run a portion of Orlando. And as I did that, I was like, wow, this is kind of fun. So I became a board member for the Motor Coach Association, the Limousine Association. And the next thing you know, I'm lobbying in DC. And the next thing you know, I'm lobbying in the state. And I'm working with bigger corporations for master plan communities like the Villages. So I looked around, I was like, wow, this is kind of fun. So then I started helping to plan master plan communities around transportation because I could see that quality of life, as you increased it or you increase people's mobility, they had a better way of living.
Yeah.
And so
well,
I did it
it's
at the
because
Villages
of what it
for a long time.
represents, right? It represents, sorry to talk over you. It represents freedom. It represents privilege. It's a, an honor to be able to have that. It's everything. When you have transportation, you can do so much more.
Oh, absolutely. I think about it when I have to date myself a little bit, but in the 70s, I got to watch my older uncles and aunts get their driver's license. And then in the 80s, I got mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I got a form of autonomy, a little bit of you can get out of the house a little bit better and go on a date. And as I got the chance to enjoy that, I got to realize, wow,
it's freedom.
It gave you freedom. Absolutely, it did. And so when I got to help people create their own freedom with elderly communities where they might have a disability or because they might not have access.
People are taking things away from you when you get older too.
And my parents are no different.
Yeah.
Dementia and people that might have lost a limb or hearing or eyesight. If you can start giving those things back to people, it gives their quality of life a huge uplift.
So, okay, now this sounds normal again. Okay, so you've gone to Dubai. Why did you go to Dubai?
Yeah, just recently. I have a mentor of mine. His name is Mr. Bob McQueen, and we work on the Florida Israeli partnership with one of these companies that came to Lake Nona. It's called Mobility Insight, and it is an AI-driven system that does situational awareness. And by doing that, I got into AR, VR, and simulation, and how you train people, how you train the DoD, Department of Defense, different levels of our military. And by doing that, I got to see augmented reality, virtual reality, XR. How do you combine and merge all these things? So instead of placing $1 million piece of equipment and somebody doesn't know what they're doing, hands, you can simulate something, do it thousands of times over and over with, augmented reality or virtual reality and have AI drive these scenarios over and over again to optimize their skills. And I've spoken to Dubai on augmented and virtual reality training.
That's great. I love it. So when you were there, well, first off, I'm going to ask a silly question. I think it's silly. Like, how hot is it over there?
Okay. So when I got off the plane, it was 120 and it was 10 o'clock at night.
Oh my God.
It was 120 and it was the most humid place I'd ever been. I thought Florida was bad. And I've been to Vegas and I'd been to Scottsdale, Arizona and Phoenix. No place compares to
That's
Dubai.
very dry.
But humid. Oh my God.
So it's like Florida humid, but the high temperature.
When you see people walking around in white robes, you know why? Because it's hot.
Yeah. And trying to reflect the sun and oh my God.
But the coolest part of the whole trip, not to mention seeing the new cultures and beautiful buildings and architecture, going to the top of the Burj Khalifa Tower, the tallest building in the world, and looking out and seeing where the city ends and the desert begins.
Okay, how high? I have a fear of heights, and I'm already just panicking when you tell me.
They allow you to go up to 155 stories. Above that's another 10 stories, and then above that there's an extra tower peak.
Are you in the clouds?
Well, it was a clear day. I didn't see any clouds. I mean, sure that you could be. But I did some interviews up there and did the VIP treatment, got a chance to look out over the ocean. It was beautiful.
Did you feel the building move?
No, not at all. It's not like going up in the Eiffel Tower where you feel the building.
I've never been there either. So you're an extremely well-traveled person.
No, it's honestly, it was beautiful. It was very humbling. You get to go outside, you get to feel the wind up there and very well protected though.
Ooh, I have this just really queasy feeling in my stomach just listening to it. I'm not kidding. Fear of heights. Yeah. I challenge myself though. I sit here and I go, okay, I'm going to go zip lining and just jump off. And go, okay, we got to do that. And, rock climbing, I've done these things and I know it's good to, challenge those fears so that they don't stay there.
Absolutely.
So would I go? I don't know. Maybe with the right people.
Well, I had to do it because I don't know that I'm ever going to go back there. It's kind of like a bucket list thing. So I made sure that after I got done speaking and met everybody that
Did the
was
tourist thing.
yeah, actually yeah, I did, and they really they did a great job on that city.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is someplace I would like to see. It definitely is.
Definitely multicultural, melting pot.
Do you see a lot of Americans there?
Honestly, a little bit, but for the most part, definitely Emirati,
Okay.
Saudi Arabian type cultures,
Mm-hmm.
Middle Eastern.
Got it. So you told me why you chose the transportation industry, and that makes sense, but you had a call before we started our podcast. So let's talk about Tesla, Daytona 500, and ITR. What does ITR and what do they all have in common?
Okay, so it's IATR, and actually IATR is the International Association of Transportation Regulators.
Okay.
So I've been friends with the president. His name is Matt Doss for about 5 years. We did an event in Atlantic City, and that was with Chauffeur Driven at the time. And we were talking about new concepts. And this was before Tesla became Tesla. And we were talking about, what it would like to have autonomous vehicles, what it would like to live in a community that was fully electric infrastructure. And that was the exact same time that Dieselgate came out with VW. So we were talking about how we were going to build all this infrastructure to be able to charge electric vehicles, not only electric and autonomous vehicles. And so by working with the IATR, I got an opportunity to become a beta tester with Tesla. So I got a chance to see all the different hardwares, all the different softwares, all the different metamorphosis that Tesla went through over the course of the last 6 years.
So seeing all of that, I mean, that's got to be like being a kid in a candy store, right?
Great engineers. I mean, phenomenal engineers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of knowledge and a lot of privilege. Have you met Elon Musk?
No, never, but I have met with like Drew Baglino and some of the Tesla team that are just all phenomenal. He's done a great job delegating, Elon Musk.
Yeah, no, I understood who you meant there. Just for our listeners, though, too. Do you have a Tesla?
I have multiple. Any model I've ever built, I've had every iteration of hardware, software, so I can tell people what it's like to have
so
an NVIDIA
Tesla,
chip. And
it's not just the car.
no,
When you say Tesla, let's break that
no,
down.
that's it's an energy company. It's a software company. It's a technology company. It's so many things. It's kind of like having a mobile iPhone. It's the easiest way to explain it. And and you can talk to it like Alexa, and it just picks up stuff, and it does it now. I can literally get in the vehicle, put on my seatbelt, look at it, click a button on my stock, and say, I need to navigate to, and it does it. That's how good it is now.
Wow. It doesn't feel scary?
I'd say it took about a year to get used to it, but after a while, you really learn to trust the system. And you can also tell when the AI makes a bad choice, when you need to do an intervention. You learn to feel it.
I'm skeptical, but do we have any of those in Lake Nona?
Bunch of them.
Okay. Next time I'm out, I want to go and
there's actually a fleet, and they're called Beep. Operates a little bit off a different technology, but we've also had years ago, I had my own fleet of Teslas, and we did a system that was called Quiz My Ride, and we did it with GroundLink, we did it with Black Lane, we did it with Uber and Lyft, Get Transferred, and the actual orders would come through the airport. The car would pick it up, would drop the order into the vehicle. We would execute the drive, and the vehicle would ask questions to the passenger, and the passenger was allowed to respond, and the system would record the data. That's how I met you, because I won the innovation award by doing Quiz My Ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And was with Dr. David Metcalf at the time.
Yeah.
NASA.
David's great too. All right. Well, so, that's just ignorance on my part, because I thought Tesla was only the car. I did not understand it's so much more.
The energy industry, you can talk about solar, you can talk about battery backups and microgrid technology and just so many different things. It's an energy company as well.
Okay, so do
And
you
then
have
you break off from that, and then you got SpaceX, and then you got the Boring Company, and then you got Neuralink, and just so many different iterations.
do you actually have a Tesla car though?
Oh, much as
Okay,
we've had 10.
gotcha.
And I actually gave a Cybertruck to a gentleman that's in the UK, in the EU this
That's got
past
to
year.
be the heaviest car in the world. It looks like a tank.
It's stainless steel.
Yeah, it just looks ridiculously heavy. All right, favorite Hot Wheel car.
Just a Cybertruck.
Okay, that's what you said last time. It's still your favorite car.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is that your favorite car? But
You
it's a
got to
Hot Wheel.
operate it. I mean,
Is there a Hot Wheel car?
yeah, I got one in my backpack, literally.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I want to see that one too.
My grandson loves it.
That sounds funny. What color is it?
Silver, stainless steel,
Just check because they come in colors now.
wraps.
Is that what they're doing?
The base is stainless steel.
Okay. Okay. So, what collaborations are you doing with our fellow Avalonians, we'll call them, from when we were in that program?
Well, whenever we were working with Stephanie at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I had got a relationship over in Singapore. We'd had a meeting, and now I'm actually doing cybersecurity with an Israeli company in Singapore.
Wow. They connected you to that?
I connected the Israeli company to Singapore.
Okay. Okay.
And some of it's under NDA, but basically it's cybersecurity
Well, I was
from the
actually,
Israeli IDF. That's what it is.
I was talking about the people that were in the program with us. What collaborations do you
You.
have with those? Me?
You.
I know you have one with me. I know, but do you want to talk about anything with anyone else?
Well, I mean, to me, it's very important that we
Is
are
it STEM
working.
kids? But
No, honestly, it's very important that we're working with interns. We're working with next generation people. And these are people that come to us with fresh ideas that we want to implement in the things that we do.
yeah.
You know, they make our widgets better,
Mhm.
whatever that widget might be. They bring to the table a lot of great new,
They
innovative
do.
ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. You haven't become a customer for me yet, though. I'm just going to point that one out yet.
But
So
the thing is that we're going to get all this stuff where as you come into this incubator over at the Verizon 5G, you're going to get a chance to see these things. They just implemented the Lake Nona Chamber of Commerce in that 5G center now.
oh wow.
So you're going to see businesses from all over the world now.
Oh,
And everybody's going to have an opportunity to share their knowledge. They're going to need new workforce. They're going to need new
Yeah.
innovative ideas.
Yeah. I had other exciting things I'll tell you, but that will be off the air because I'm looking for press releases to come out. Okay, so do you want to mention anything with our other friend that's in education and STEM?
Oh, so we had an opportunity over the last probably 5 months to start working with a type of STEM education. It's called Young Innovators.
Mm-hmm.
Marnie Forestry is the president, founder, CEO, and she has actually been working with the Harvard Education School. She is going to be bringing STEM education facilities and franchise them. And she's going to be doing it in a way by creating a back end system with one of the founders of Netflix. The guy's name is Barath. And so they're creating the software system that will allow young entrepreneur, mostly women, of course, to create their own franchise STEM education center anywhere in the world. I mean, anywhere.
Why just women?
But mostly because when a young child, I asked her this question. Let's just say you have a 3 or 4-year-old that might have to have their diaper changed or they have an accident. Most parents don't feel very comfortable having a young man engage
They
in
want
a
it
young
to be
child.
more maternal.
Yes. And the reason, that's a particular reason why, and which made sense to me. But also women, I find, are not isolated to just being the housewife or just isolated to being the person that cleans up the hotel room. These are very bright entrepreneurial women that can run their own show.
Mm-hmm.
And so teaching at that level with people that are the most impressionable, 8 weeks to 5 years old, to me, that's where I want a strong entrepreneurial woman.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of centers that are out there. I've worked in daycare after I was doing my teaching gig. I worked in aftercare with kindercare, and I know that a lot of these companies, they've done a spectacular job of, being able to provide preschool curriculum to parents that they're average working people. But when you have something like what you're describing, the STEM, that crosses over into things that are more like Montessori, very highly experiential, really accelerating the ability to learn and absorb, because children by the age of 5, as you mentioned, they're sponges, and they are just sitting here going, oh, I want to learn everything. They learn languages. They learn everything during that time frame.
And I've been to some of her schools just to, shadow and see how it operates. I mean, they have sensory rooms, they have robotics rooms, they have places in there where the children actually get to operate the mechanics behind something, ask questions. And really, these educators at that level take the time to literally get down on the level and look into that child's eyes. They don't hover over them.
No, you're
And they
always supposed to
literally
be down on your knees
they
so that you're
get
in the same
down.
thing.
Absolutely. They
Same
don't
height.
threaten that way either.
Yeah.
So they learn better. They're
Mhm.
more receptive. And that's one of the things that I've had to humble myself and learn, because I'm a grandfather and I want my grandchildren to not be fearful of me. I want them to be engaging, because
Mhm.
I take great joy in hanging out with them and going
Yeah.
fishing and
There's
swimming
more
and stuff.
engagement. I don't know if it's even, I don't think it creates fear unless there's a parent that is, exhibiting that. But I think when you get down on their level, it makes you more playful. And that's what I think they're responding to, is the fact that, oh, let's go and roll around. Let's, in this case, we will wrestle, and we'll wrestle, and you let the 2-year-old or the 3-year-old win. Oh, like not hardly, but it's fun and it's a game and they like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really nice. What is the best part of being an entrepreneur, in your opinion?
The freedom to being able to come and go, make your own decisions. And I can also say that, it's not all pixie dust and roses. I mean, there's a lot of failure
This
that
is
comes
the
with that.
hardest thing you'll ever do.
Yeah. But because of that, to humble yourself and realize, wow, I can learn through failure and have it be okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with trying and failing. I look at it like it's okay to try and fail. It's not okay to not try.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can take the time to realize and learn from your failures, it only makes you grow stronger to also be a great mentor to somebody else, or to my grandkids, or to my children. How do I exude that in my church relationship? How do I disciple people better?
Mm-hmm.
And have them realize that it's okay. Don't be fearful of failure.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And you said something also that was really significant, is that the word try. I do not use the word try. Rarely will, let me correct myself. Rarely will I use the word try. Try to me means that it gives me the option to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And I sit here and I go, there's 3 words when I mentor anybody with me, and I remind myself, I go, there's I think I can, I believe I can, and I know I can. And which one does an Olympian say?
I know I can.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no trying. They're not going to say, oh, I'm going to try, or yes, I'm really trying to do better. Either you're doing better or you're not doing better. Which is it?
Yoda would say that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah. So the most challenging part of being an entrepreneur.
The most challenging part is realizing when you actually have to pivot and realize you can't be married to an idea, and you have to either take the advice of somebody else and to humble yourself that, hey, I didn't get that one right. That's the challenging part.
Mm-hmm. I think so, because nobody wants to feel like, oh, why didn't I see it? There's that failure thinking that falls in there. But again, like, if let's go back to the ages of 2 to 5, right, when kids are really learning so fast, more than because they have verbal skills, is really why I'm thinking. Anyway, when you're sitting here and you fail, they don't think anything about it. They go, okay. They just get up and they keep trying. Now, if they see an adult around them and they fall down or whatever, oh, they start crying, right? Because they get sympathy. They already know how to use that to their advantage.
That's another thing that I admire about Marnie and her system with the young innovators is they're very empathetic. They teach empathy.
Mm-hmm.
They make children identify with empathy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very strong trait.
Well, we're doing pretty good here. We're going to blow through these next questions because I know you have a phone call coming up here. So we're going to take a break, acknowledge our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios. We'll be right back.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat 5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat 5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat 5 Studios can help your business. Thank you, Cat 5 Studios.
We're in the second half of our show. Glenn over here, my favorite friend, Glenn Cook, is my guest, and we're going to talk about the future in 2030. He's already been talking about it in the first half of the show. If you don't get that, we've already crossed over this line here. But what do you think 2030 is going to look like? And basically, that's just 5 years from now. We don't count this year. We don't count 2030.
Well, 2030 has already happened in my mind. We're actually working on Vision 2055. I mean,
Okay.
that's where we're planning and where we are and the planning stages is we're looking at what the space economy is going to be like. What's it going to be like when you live in space, you're born in space, and you visit Earth?
Oh, that's crazy.
So we're working on programs like Orbital Reef with Blue Origin. We're working on programs like, think about what the space station is like. That's actually going to be disassembled by 2030. There won't be a space station anymore.
Really?
There's going to be other types of things developed, whether it's the colony on, the moon or, an orbital reef where you built that space station for modern everyday people. Space travel is becoming, if you haven't watched Starship, just got caught by the Megazilla arms by the chopsticks. First time ever, first try, launch 5. So already these things are happening and they're being accelerated by artificial intelligence. So then AGI, artificial general intelligence, is going to become a thing. Robotics, quality of life, humanoid robotics are
Did you already
thing.
see? Yeah, they've been having them all kinds of things are on.
And it's happening.
Yeah.
It's not if, it is happening.
Yeah.
And so people worry about, okay, what's going to do
They
to
said,
replace my job? And
don't touch the robots, please. Be kind to them. Yeah. I saw that on a video too.
And honestly, they learn through a system that's called end-to-end neural net. And so as the repetition goes, they learn through, just like a human, repetition of how things are done. And so they learn skills. But the difference between a human and a humanoid robot is they'll get it right the next try. Whereas a human will go, okay, I messed that up. And, oh, that's hot. Oh, I'm going to touch it again. Oh, I'm going to touch it again.
Yeah. It takes a little longer for some.
A little longer.
Some people learn on the first one. Some it might take, I don't know, 5, 10 times. Yeah, I get it. Okay. So what positive impact do you think robots or augmented reality can have on the future of work?
It's going to give you your time back. And that's the most, to a human, we have an amount of time on this earth. And if you can get the quality of life of time back,
you can't ever. Yeah, you can't.
You cannot replace it. So if you can get the quality of life of time, which is something I learned from my grandmother, that's one of the things when you know that your life is going to end, the most important thing to you is time.
That's true. Yeah. The average lifespan of a 75-year-old is 27,325 days. When you think about that, you think about days. I sit here, I'm working on a book. That's the title of my book too, by the way. And it's 27,375 days of impact. Every day we can make a choice whether we can provide impact in the world. Impact can be something as small as feeding somebody that's homeless. You fed them for a day. It can be, what did you say over here? You had said something, neuronet and robots. And I went, okay, it can be a part of these things that they're not going back in the box. So being a part of what is being created, honestly, in the late 50s, when the scientists, the researchers were all in the labs, primarily a bunch of white guys, figuring out what is our future going to look like. That's like 68 years ago, I think, 60 something close to 70.
You got to think about Walt Disney. I mean, right down the road from us, started talking about Epcot back in the 60s, the George Jetsons back in the 60s. But if you literally come out to Lake Nona, you will see a living life lab Epcot. Yeah. We do it.
I've been there. I've seen it. I know it's amazing.
And to see the great minds that come from all over the world to come to bring their technology to try it out and to watch it work. And you go, wow, we can do that. Let's do that. That's really cool.
All right. My next question. This gentleman, his name is Jeffrey Hinton. He was interviewed on 60 Minutes about AI. He is called
Godfather.
The Godfather of AI. And he is very, very concerned about what he invented. He was a part of the team that invented this. He said, one of the ways in which these systems might escape control is by writing their own computer code to modify themselves. And that's something we need to seriously worry about. This was in October 8th, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So what ethical dilemmas that you foresee could come up out of AR and AI? Because you've been, a really good advocate.
Yeah. Well, look at it like this. And this is one of the things that I can say, that AI for Good, which was started, back years ago by a group of individuals, you can create something to do a nefarious act.
Yeah.
You can have too much of anything.
Yep.
And have it be harmful.
Yep.
So there, in that mental state, if you are trying to do something nefarious, it will be bad. It will be harmful. However, if you create something like social engineering or good, you can actually socially engineer a new mind frame of life in an area that only people want to live in, that utopia of good. It's possible. But if you tweak it a little bit and be that 1 degree off of going towards negativity, the glass is half empty, not half full, then it will absolutely be that. It can. So if you train that computer to do nefarious acts or to be a system that is harmful cybersecurity wise, then it will be that.
So what systems do we need to put in place to ensure that the people that are creating this are on the side of good, not going evil? So I think this is what I think when I thought about that. I said, so we need to make sure that we're educating people in ethics. We need to make sure that there is a certification around it, and that the only people that are actually creating AI and being involved in it have to prove their certification and have to prove that they're doing good decisions. It has to be something that we know we're choosing people that are going to be good stewards of all of this ability to be almost like God.
Well, integrity. I mean, you can start with just simple integrity, moral values, and I believe that the basics, and of course I'm a Christian guy, so I go back to the moral structure of the Bible. There is an instructional manual in life, and that's just my own personal opinion.
The Bible is it,
and it's an instructional manual.
Yeah.
And throughout the centuries, and we have been given an instruction manual and how you adhere to that, and I'm of that culture. And I firmly believe it.
Yeah. And other religions have something that would be similar. So, it's like, I know I'm a believer too, like yourself. But I also know not everybody is, but they have their own belief system, and there's good and there's evil. And as long as they're on that side of good, we're kind of all playing in the sandbox together.
Well, there's think about it, different continents out there. We were literally subdivided by continents.
Yep.
And if you've ever been on a plane trip to Dubai, you know how far that is. And if you try to go to China, or if you try to go to Japan and Asia, Russia, those plane flights are long, and you realize how far away. And then you land, and then you talk to people, and you look, there is a difference in culture, and the way they act has been imprinted in through thousands of years, a way a culture reacts to something.
This is honestly going to be one of the
yourself
best
to
shows.
that.
I'm telling you, this is honestly one of the best shows. Okay, it's high on my list. Way better than the other one we did. Okay. So I'm getting down to my last two questions, because I know we have to go. Best mentoring advice that you want to share with our listeners about the future of work. Or future, period.
Yeah, as far as being a mentor to people, what we try to do is do good. Pretty simple. If you feel in your heart of hearts that you're doing good and you're trying to contribute to the betterment of life, the quality of life for those around you, generationally, and that is something you want to press forward and to put impressions upon people, please do that, because you're going to have a conscience about it. And your conscience is that sixth sense, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I call it the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. How can our listeners connect with you? Now, I give them your LinkedIn profile, but I know we use the saferider.com website, and we also have landrotor.com. Is that enough?
The easiest thing to do is to go to saferider.com. At the very bottom, it says connect with me. There's a little area in there that says fill in your name, your email address, a general comment, phone number, and I return all messages. I really do. And, I have assistants that work with me, and we have a wonderful lab system with our incubators at Guidewell, the Verizon 5G, Leads Accelerator. And we welcome new ideas all the time.
Well, I want to thank you for being a guest. This was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yep. And just so our listeners know, you can always go back and you can find Glenn on any of these channels. And I encourage you to look for him.
Thank you to our sponsor, Cat5 Studios. Thank you to our video production editing team, Rachel Matthias, Erica Ullman, and Gavin Staley. Music is by Sophie Lloyd. The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Employers for Change, helping hiring teams to recruit and upskill their intern talent and employees. Learn more about www.e4c.tech and become a member to reduce employer bias and improve company culture through head and heart smart recruitment and learning. Subscribe to the Intern Whisperer today and show your support by sharing our show, tagging a friend to listen, and leaving us comments. You can find the Intern Whisperer Podcast and Employers for Change YouTube channel or streaming from your favorite podcast channel.